Hey everyone, I am so glad to be here with you today for the Global Church Mental Health Summit. I'm Dr. Allison. I'm an author, a therapist, and I'm the host of the Best of You podcast. And everything I do is about bringing together faith and psychology. And today I want to talk with you about something we don't always think about, especially when it comes to our inner lives. It's this idea of loving your enemies. I want to start today with a question. Have you ever had one of those moments where you suddenly realize you're fighting with yourself? And I'll be honest with you, I was thinking about this as I was preparing for this talk. I just had one this morning. I had too much to do. My nervous system was all worked up, and some part of me was just yelling at me about how stupid I am. And I could just feel that angry energy inside my own mind. I wouldn't speak that way to my worst enemy, but a voice inside of me had no problem beating me up incessantly. Maybe you also have an inner critic like mine, or maybe your battle looks a little different. You've had a long week and you promised yourself you'd rest, take a day off over the weekend, but then something inside you just will not let you stop. Or maybe someone gives you a compliment, and instead of letting yourself really absorb it, instead of saying thank you, you feel your body tighten and a voice whispers, they don't really mean that. That's not true. We tend to think of our enemies as being out there, the person who criticizes us, the one who rejected us, maybe the one who hurt us. But if we're honest, some of our fiercest enemies live inside our own souls. And here's the paradox. Jesus tells us to love our enemies. I love Eugene Peterson's paraphrase in The Message, Matthew 5:44. He says it this way, I'm telling you to love your enemies. Let them bring out the best in you, not the worst. When someone gives you a hard time, respond with the energies of prayer. For then you are working out your true self, your God-created self. This is not an invitation to become a doormat. It's instead an invitation to become strong. And what if this invitation isn't only to our enemies out there, but to these parts of ourselves inside our own souls? When I speak of inner enemies, I mean those parts of ourselves that seem at odds with the person we want to be. And this isn't a new idea, this idea that we have many parts inside our souls. Renowned trauma therapist Bessel van der Kolk described this idea of the multifaceted soul as foundational to all of psychology. We are not only one thing. And the Bible shows this too. David works to encourage his own downcast soul. And Paul says in Romans 7, for I do what I don't want to do. Instead, I do the thing I hate. We all have different parts inside of us that don't always see eye to eye. One part of you might be anxious, while another part of you feels calm or steady. One part of you might feel lonely or disconnected, while another part of you feels content and secure. One part of you might feel confident. I've got this, right? While another part of you is already bracing for failure. Your soul isn't static. It's not one thing. It's almost sometimes like an inner committee meeting where not every part of you agrees on what to do next. And sometimes these parts get extreme. For example, that relentless inner task manager we talked about, that might be a part of you that refuses to let you rest. It's the one that keeps you running and running your to-do list through your mind when you're trying to fall asleep. Or you might have a fierce inner critic, that harsh voice inside that maybe you don't even notice all the time, but it's whispering things like, you'll never be good enough. Many of the people I work with have a tenacious inner people pleaser or perfectionist. There's this drive to keep everyone happy, to never let anyone down, to earn love at all costs. This part convinces you to say yes, even when you're exhausted, because deep down, this part of you is terrified of being rejected or even of simply disappointing someone. The truth is, these extreme parts don't come out of nowhere. They've developed, often all the way back in childhood, as a way to survive. They're coping strategies. They helped you stay safe. But when they take over, they can feel like enemies within our own souls. And here's the thing I want you to hear from me today. These inner enemies aren't bad. They're just parts of us that got stuck in overdrive. We know from neuroscience that when we repeat certain thoughts or behaviors over a long period of time, the brain lays down pathways, almost like grooves in a record. The more those pathways fire, the deeper they get. So your inner critic, your task manager, your people pleaser, they become well-worn neural pathways in your brain. That's why when you're sitting there looking at your phone wanting to text no, some part of you jumps in with yes. The invitation isn't to indulge these parts or to pretend they're fine. But I wonder if Jesus' call to love our enemies is also an acknowledgement at this point that more judgment, more criticism isn't going to help. It only reinforces the old groove. Love is what blazes a new pathway in the brain, not a sentimental kind of love, but the kind of love that shows up with curiosity, honesty, and healthy boundaries, the kind of love that gently leads this part of you in a new way, a new path toward healing, a way toward wholeness, a way back to your God-created self. This is where loving presence comes in, not a sentimental kind of love, not a permissive kind of love, but the kind of love that shows up with curiosity, honesty, and self-presence. Attunement, awareness, the kind of love that becomes aware of the pathway you're about to choose and gives you a chance to begin to blaze a new pathway in the brain. This kind of loving presence is what helps us quiet the old pathway and allow a new one to take shape. As you begin to attune to these moments when parts of you start to go down those old pathways, you create a moment of choice. And that choice comes in the context of compassionate presence, not in the context of criticism, judgment, or shame. And I think this is what Jesus was getting at when he said to love our enemies. Love has the power to rewrite us. Remember my story from this morning, the part of me that was yelling that I was stupid. Here's the difference. Instead of getting stuck in that old groove, I noticed it. I stopped. I took a deep breath, and I almost immediately recognized I could choose a different path. In a split second, what would have become a disaster of a day became an opportunity for me to take a different path. I put my hand on my heart, more deep breaths, and let myself begin again from a more compassionate place. And you can do this for yourself every single moment that you notice that old part of you chiming in. You don't shame that people-pleasing part of you. You say, I see you there, wanting to say yes. I see you there, task manager. I get that you want to go down this path of doing more work, even when I promised myself that I would rest. And in that moment, you take a deep breath, you slow down your nervous system, and you make a choice. You choose to go one tiny step in a different direction. How do we love our inner enemies? I want to give you 3 practical steps. These are based in the framework I lay out in my book, I Shouldn't Feel This Way. Number 1, name it. Notice which part of me feels like the enemy right now. Is it the task manager that won't let me rest? Is it the critic that's beating me up? Is it the pleaser that is about to say yes when I really need to say no. Naming that part of you honestly is the first step toward change. Number 2, frame it. Take a deep breath to slow your nervous system and slow the limbic firing, and then ask yourself, what am I afraid would happen if I stopped? What are you afraid would happen if you took an hour to rest? What are you afraid would happen if you stopped beating yourself up for just a few moments? What are you afraid would happen if you said no to this request? Notice, without judgment, without criticism, you might even invite God into whatever it is that you fear. God, I'm scared. I'm scared I'll lose control. I'm scared I'll disappoint this person. I'm scared if I don't keep beating myself up, I'll somehow become a nobody or become nothing. These inner critics are often trying to help. And step 3, brave it. This is where you take a step in a new direction. It can be a tiny step, doesn't have to be a big one. If your task manager is pushing you to keep working, braving might look like choosing to stop just for a few moments, taking a real break and being kind to yourself as you notice the discomfort that shows up. If your inner critic is shouting that you'll never measure up, braving it might mean trying the thing anyway. Sending the email, sharing the idea, speaking up, and then caring for yourself as you let yourself risk being seen. If your people pleaser wants to say yes, braving it might be gently saying, I can't this time. And then giving yourself a chance to discover that love and belonging don't vanish when you set a boundary. And slowly, as you practice naming, framing, and then braving small steps down a new path, these parts of you will change. Your task manager will learn that turning the heat down doesn't mean you're unproductive. Instead, your work becomes like a stew simmering on the back burner. Still there, but just at a lower temperature. Your critic learns how to become a true coach, reminding you of your strength and your resilience and all that you have to offer. And your inner people pleaser learns to stop scrambling for love and begins to bask in the truth that you are already beloved just as you are. That's the power of love. It doesn't erase these parts of us, it redeems them. When you stop waging war inside yourself, you discover wholeness, integration, which is another word for integrity. You're no longer divided, battling with yourself. You're at peace, and that inner peace spills outward. You're gentler with others because you've learned how to be gentle with yourself. You're less judgmental and critical of others because you've faced your own inner critic. You're more compassionate with others because you've practiced how to be compassionate toward these parts of yourself. Psalm 23 says, you prepare a table before me in the presence of my enemies. Your presence is powerful. And what if that table includes your inner enemies too? What if God is inviting the parts of yourself you've rejected to gather and sit at the table of grace? I'd love for you to join me as we work out this journey of wholeness together each Thursday on the Best of You podcast. We're always talking about how to do this work of naming what's hard, framing our reality, and braving a path through change.